this is Kirk.
And this is Byrd on the Kirk and Byrd show. We're going to cover a couple of great things that happened over the weekend. High school, a little bit of college ACC, and we may just debate a couple of other things going on. So what's up, Kirk? Tell me a little bit about the big game in Loudoun County. It was so big they had to move to a neutral site. Sold out game. Tell me a little bit about it. That's in your neck of the woods. Two Ashburn teams. What is this, the Battle of the Burn?
Yeah, Battle of the Burn's been going on, and I think I know during COVID they started talking about a neutral site. They've got a soccer complex out here near the Leesburg Airport, and they had 5,500 people out there. Big crowd game, and it was highly anticipated. Both teams were undefeated, and Rod Run, I think, had only been scored on once or twice. And as we well know, we went to a game with Stonebridge and Freedom Woodbridge. That was a very close game. I think that Stonebridge, has been battle tested, and you and I
covered that. Yeah,
it was
we covered
blowout.
That.
64-7.
Okay, but before you just gave the score, but I just want to give myself a little props. I said, and that was basically because I'd only seen Stonebridge. The Stonebridge should probably win this game based on the games they had already played. I think you said Broad Run's going to win this one. You predicted Broad Run. So so the audience knows
I love
my skill at predicting high school victories is unmatched. Go ahead, bro. Hit it.
No, I mean, I think that there were key turnovers. I know Broad Run turned the ball over, bad turnovers 3 or 4 times. And I believe that Stonebridge is just a well-oiled machine. Their quarterback, Jacob Thomas, converted defensive back. You and I both seen him. Very quick kid, left-handed, throws the ball well. He threw a lot, had some great passes. Zeke Wimbush had a great game. Eli Mason, Deuce Jeter had some key plays. Defense played well. Broad Run could not get it going. They've got Brett Griffiths, who's going to Wake Forest. They've got a good offensive line with nationally ranked number 1 player for next year, Alex Birchmeyer. But they couldn't get anything going, and it was poured on. Rusty, it was poured on really fast.
But yeah, I mean, it's one thing to win the game. It's one thing to beat your rival, but they drummed them. It's not easy to put up 64 points in 48 minutes against a really good team, an undefeated team. But I got to go back to what we kind of talked about before. And, this Stonebridge team, we know they're the defending 5A state champions, but look who they've played so far. And they've beaten Division VI Madison, who comes from that extremely difficult Concord district. They've beaten them 20-0. They beat Division VI Centerville, who's won multiple state championships in that same very strong district, beat them 32-7. Then they took on the best from Prince William County, team that was in the state championship game 3 years ago, Division VI, 35-38, Stonebridge wins. And then they blow out Colonial Forge, a state semifinalist 3 years ago, in a traditional Stafford County power. So, and then they get into their district and they play Riverside and beat them 51-7. Like, it's the preparation that they're putting into then going into a district schedule of Division V teams. Like, they are prepared.
Yep. And Rusty, they do that every year. They play a lot of Division VI teams. So the athletic department there, the athletic director, as well as Coach Mickey Thompson and his staff, they put that together, and I believe it serves them very well.
And do you know why they do that? Because the team they met for like 5 or 6 years in a row in the state championship, Highland Springs does that.
Yeah.
Highland Springs plays in extremely difficult non-district games.
Right.
And so and so they have to do that so that they're not both teams, like those were the two teams in the state championship back in, what was that, May or June. So those
Yeah.
teams, they are gearing up, I think, to meet again in the Division 5 state championship. Look, Highland Springs, I'll touch on them really quick. They played this team Chambers out of Charlotte, North Carolina, really strong powerhouse team from down there. They played Manchester right in their region. Prince William, they blew out Prince George High School. Then they were challenged by Martinsburg out in West Virginia. A one
Number
point
one team in West Virginia, Rusty.
Yeah. And we've known in the past, Highland Springs has played some of those private schools, like in California and different places. So they are really, really both gearing up to meet again. By the way, they're preparing with these higher level division top teams.
So we talked before we went on air, strategizing or powwowing about what we're going to talk about. So what we want to do, Rusty, is parlay this into the 5 and 4 state outlook and 6, and we're going to go into 3 because my Phoebus Phantoms. We're going to talk about that. But I do want to point out, and we'll go to some 7-5-7, but let's stay up here. Green Run is undefeated and beat a very good Ocean Lakes team. Ocean Lakes is a power down there. So watch out. I mean, we know Green Run from back in the day. Joe Darby and Matt Darby. Matt Darby played for UCLA and played for the Buffalo Bills. But watch out for that Green Run team because those beach athletes are awesome. So, I see Stonebridge coming out of the north and going to ODU on Hampton Boulevard because that's where the 5 and 6 championships are, which I think is pretty cool. What do you see as far as Highland Springs? Lauren Johnson is an incredible coach.
Virginia Tech alum.
Yeah, Virginia Tech Hokie in '95 broke up that pass to beat Miami 13-7, which started a special run. But I like Stonebridge. Stonebridge does have undefeated Independence, and Indian River got trounced by Oscar Smith. But I do like, hey, Stonebridge every year. I would say, Independence based on what they did to Broad Run. I mean, what's your feeling on that? Once they get to that final game, because they're going to have home field advantage unless they lose. And I've looked at their schedule and I don't think they're going to. I mean,
let me ask you something. Is Broad Run Division 5 or 4? 4. Yep. So they won't. There's no chance for that revenge game for Broad Run.
Nope.
So that's they don't get a chance.
Yeah, what happened was when Independence opened, Broad Run's enrollment went down and they 5-4. So I mean, Broad Run's gonna win a state championship. They're destined. They just got a great program, and why don't we actually take that and let's talk about 4.
Division 4. You got Dinwiddie, Salem. And then in Broad Run is still right there at number 3. Heritage is 6-0. That's the Leesburg team. Yeah,
they're undefeated. Shout out to Heritage and Leesburg because this is a really good football area out here. Woodgrove.
Leesburg is killing it, man.
Yeah, Woodgrove.
I mean, Loudoun County overall.
Tuscarora with Bryce Duke. They're a bunch of great programs. Independence. So
Loudoun County's doing well. They're Division 4, ranked number 13. Yep. So, and then we're talking about Division 4 right now. A team that's near and dear to both of our hearts, either because we love them or we hate them. But the Hampton Crabbers are right now ranked number 15 in Division 4, and they haven't played Phoebus yet, have they?
This Friday night, I think it was. I'm trying to think of my mind is going blank.
They didn't just play because Hampton just beat Bethel this past weekend.
Hampton beat Bethel 21-0.
20, yeah, 27 zip, unfortunately.
Okay. Phoebus did not play Denby. I don't think it was COVID. I think Denby's having a problem fielding a team, but don't quote me on that. I tried to make some calls before the game. So that's 2 weekends in a row. Phoebus has not played Heritage. I'm not sure. And then Denby, I know, is having some problems. But the big game is this weekend. Phoebus does play Hampton.
Wow.
Based on what I've heard, Phoebus should win that game. I mean, but with Mike Smith, they're good. I would say it would be an upset. But, you know, when we talk about going back to Northern Virginia, let's talk about the path. Now, Broad Run, you know, if they right the ship, they've got to get out of here. And you're talking about Dinwiddie is a team that they could face in the state championship. And then Kings Fork, we know, is a great school down in Suffolk.
Yeah.
And, you know, up here, Hampton, like I said, Hampton Crabbers.
Yeah. I think, you know, there's some Richmond-based teams that you can, you know, the problem with the teams, the other teams in the Richmond area, the Varinas and the Hermitage, they got to get past Highland Springs to advance. So that makes it difficult for them. But, you know, I not saying I can smell an upset coming, but I'll say this. At some point, the other teams, with their rivalry games, and you just never know. I pulled for Highland Springs because I like the program. I like what Lauren's done there over the years. You know, he used to be up here at Stonewall Jackson now in Unity Reed.
And he did real well here, too.
Yeah, he did. Some great players. I think he was the one that he was coaching Ryan Williams, who went on to Virginia Tech. Yep. So, you know, I think there are opportunities for some teams to maybe upset, like the Manchesters and different things. Like they've already lost. The Manchester's already lost to Highland Springs, but it wasn't that bad of a game. You know,
Manchester, you know, kind of a rebuild.
It was 27-13, and so it's, again, I'm telling you that these teams meet up in the playoffs. You can't tell, like those gaps are closing in terms of these teams being able to compete with the Highland Springs and Stonebridge. We'll keep track of this Division 4. I want us to keep track of Division 3 too for your fans.
Let me just close out with this, with Division 4. All right. Dinwiddie is very highly ranked. So whoever wins out up here, I'm not sure where 3 and 4 is. I just looked at it, but 5 and 6 is at ODU. But, you know, you're looking at Dinwiddie is the number 1 seed, or the number 1 ranked 14. Broad Run has a tough time with Tuscarora. Tuscarora's got a great football program. And then, you know, they've got Heritage Leesburg, and then, you know, Kettle Run up here. They've got Loudoun County, and then Dinwiddie and Hampton would probably meet. So that is going to be exciting. So what I want to do, since we had our good friend Jeremiah Davis from Westfields on, let's take a look at Division 6. Let's start up here in Nova, because we've already seen a great team, Freedom Woodbridge, which that's a team that can win it. I don't know if they can beat Oscar Smith. I've been thinking that all night. But give me your take, Rusty, on Division 6.
Okay, Division 6. So Freedom, as great of a program it is, and how well they played, they did catch another L, which surprised me. They lost to Garfield 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
And Garfield was actually the defending Cardinal District champion last year. And but they had lost a couple of their early games, so I didn't see them, being able to maintain that. But they did beat They beat Freedom, but I still think Freedom's the team that just has some of that experience. I think it would be hard for Garfield to beat them twice. I believe when you're talking Division 6, you know, in this particular region, you're going to have to look at Freedom. You're going to look at Battlefield. Battlefield is undefeated, and they play a strong game. They have a great quarterback. The thing now is this past year, they only did the 4 rounds of playoffs. They reduced it by 1,
Right.
but now they're going to go back to playing 5 rounds. So it's a lot more difficult. You can win that first game, you may have home field advantage, but now Freedom may not have the home field advantage when they go up against some of these other teams because of the 2 losses. I like overall Division 6, when you're also including the most northern region programs. South County is outstanding. I saw South County the other day against Woodbridge, and they beat them pretty well.
Right.
If you look the score, I think it was 35-13, but it doesn't really tell the whole story, because I saw the potential Woodbridge had, but they also had 5 turnovers, I believe. But South County has that experience. They have that confidence, and they're led by their sophomore quarterback, Jordan Dennis, a young man that I coached in youth football, and he led us to the Fairfax County League Fairfax County Championship as a 6th grader. So I think South County, you can't count out Westfield. South County beat Westfield, but once you get to the playoffs and that experience that you have over at Westfield and the coaching staff and just the tradition, Westfield, and then Robinson is playing some great football. And again, Madison had only lost his Stonebridge. And again, Stonebridge is, despite any division, they're one of the best teams in the state, if not the best. So, the numbers they're putting. Well, Oscar Smith is great. They're putting a lot of points up. Their only loss was to a traditional power from California. So I think this season is. I remember just well over a month ago, but I was like, I can't wait for football season, and you're doing the preseason. But football is one of those seasons that you can't wait, and then it seems like it's early. And next thing you know, you've played 6 games. Yeah. Like most teams only have like 4 games left. Most teams have already hit their byes, or they just had them. And so now we're in this stretch run.
That's it.
Where we're going to now really see who are the players. Everybody's now playing district games. And these games all count. And so, like I said, Freedom Woodbridge, who I thought would have had a tougher game against Forest Park, they took out their frustration on Forest Park the other day. I don't see them catching any more losses this year. So, I want to see what Battlefield and Patriot could turn it on in the playoffs as well. So those are some of the things I know from what I've actually seen. I'd also like to touch a little bit on some of the private schools in Virginia. I have a little experience with that.
Can we hit 3 real quick?
Oh, yeah. Go ahead. Touch on 3 for me. Yeah.
All right. Well, the King of the Hills, Phoebus. Liberty Christian, who we're going to have Andre Kendrick on this week. And Zach Rice is arguably the number 1 player in the state that goes to that school, powerhouse. But when I look at, there's some interesting things in 3. 3 is not what you think. It's not the old tiny schools. I think Phoebus is head and shoulders the best 3 team. Heritage of Lynchburg, who they lost to last year in the state finals, is right up there. And then you got Christiansburg, Brookville. All right, there's a couple of landmines for Phoebus coming out of their area, and that would be Lafayette. There's a lot of chatter down there about Lafayette.
Yeah.
And Lafayette is, they went out of the Peninsula District, the classic, way they handled Milan. But also, Booker T. Washington is starting to play football again. Booker T. Washington beat trounced Lake Taylor. Now, Phoebus crushed Lake Taylor, and Lake Taylor is a great football program. So,
yeah, going into that Lake Taylor Phoebus game, I think Lake Taylor was ranked number 2
yeah,
in the 757 area. Yep.
yep. So I wanted to include 3. Phoebus is itching. It's been 10 years, maybe 11 since we've won. And big game this weekend, though. Bottom line is the playoffs, though. You don't want to see a team again. So
Yeah.
Want to cover that. And why don't you go ahead to the private schools, and let's talk about, your son goes to Bishop Ireton and some of the powerhouse like St. Christopher's, Liberty Christian, etc.
Yeah, so we have a couple of teams that are from the northern region, Northern Virginia, that are private schools. And so the way this ranking breaks down, we're referring to Max Prep's rankings, because there are a few other different places you can look. In some of the VHSL AP type rankings, they don't include the WCAC Northern Virginia teams, Bishop Ireton, O'Connell, and Paula VI, but Max Prep does. So when you look at what they right now, it's funny because Liberty Christian is a private school. They have them in the private school rankings, but they also have them in the public school because, again, they're postseason. I believe they play public school postseason, but they're overall ranked number 1 in Max Prep. But St. Christopher's is number 1 in the VHSL Cup poll, and St. Christopher's, I saw them up close. Bishop Ireton, we scrimmaged them. It was our second scrimmage. And I on film prior to the game, I didn't think they would be that much. And even when they stepped on the field, I'm thinking, oh, we can play with them. And we did. We played with them, but they were more, in the scrimmage, it's hard to tell when you do 10 plays and 10 plays. But they moved the ball much more consistently than Bishop Ireton. And I believe they scored maybe 1 or 2 more touchdowns. I know we had some touchdowns on defense. But what I see here is, look, you got Episcopal from Alexandria. They're ranked number 3. St. Stephen, St. Agnes. Now, that's a team that really put something on my Ireton Cardinals. But I will say some of the losses that Bishop Ireton has had this year was due to a number of athletes being out because of the COVID protocol. A couple of games, we had 5 to 6 starters missing. Unfortunately for the the St. Stephen's game, our original starting quarterback had been injured the week before. And then the second string quarterback, Nate, who came in, had been out due to COVID protocol, was not eligible again until Friday and had to play on Saturday. But that's taking nothing away from them. They're a really good team. Collegiate as usual in the Richmond area. They're 3-2. They're ranked number 10. Potomac. Now there's the Potomac in McLean, and they again another Northern Virginia team. Bishop Ireton played them, and they played us extremely well. They beat us, but again, COVID, I think impacted the game. But when you look, you've got St. Paul VI. They're 4-1. I saw them play against John Paul the Great. Now, that was a close game. And the reason I'm bringing that up, Paul VI played a close game against John Paul the Great out of Dumfries. And then Bishop Ireton got their first win. Now, they're ranked near the bottom of the rank. Bishop Ireton right now, we're 1-5. But they beat John Paul the Great 64-0 yesterday. And so that was quite a way to bounce back. I like the way Coach Gary Wortham did some things on offense in terms of, showing some wildcat at the goal line. They ran the ball a lot more successfully. I think, having more of their linemen back from protocol and injuries. But they it's a lot easier to run block than it is to pass block. And so when these kids are firing out, kids that are about their same size, you can have a lot more success. Right. And then another loss that the Bishop Ireton had was to Independence. Is that the game you went to? No, you went to St. Albans. St. Albans. St. Albans, yeah. Yeah. But, I give Coach Wortham a lot of credit. They purposely are playing a difficult schedule. As you can see, most of the teams they played are ranked in the top in the state, in a lot of different categories. But those are some of the things and teams that we want to be on the lookout for. I think it's going to shape up when they do have the private school postseason, that it's going to be a lot of fun. So we're looking forward to that. Yep.
Yeah, and not to leave out deep Southwest Virginia's Division II. There's some really good quality football down there. They just don't have the numbers. You're talking about programs like Graham out of Bluefield. You're talking about Glenvar out of Salem, which I believe is where Brandon Simonis went.
Not away. Just a lot of good athletes. Yeah.
I believe Stephen Holloway, who was a defensive tackle at Virginia Tech, who's a year younger than me, which means he's a year older than Lenny. Norton has Central Virginia High School out of Bristol. Some very good Ridgeview, Clintwood. I believe that's Justin Hamilton's high school. So, some very good programs down there and in Division II. And the Bristol Herald Courier does a really good job on Twitter. Speaking of Twitter, we are at the Kirk and Byrd on Twitter. So how do you feel? You feel good about talking about the private schools?
Yeah.
I was going to say this. I think over time, with the way the WCAC, the Catholic League, works up here with the exposure, I think you're going to start to see some of these good players from these Loudoun County schools go over to Paul VI, because they're going to be able, honestly, to get more exposure playing against DeMatha, playing against St. John's, playing against Good Counsel, playing against Archbishop Carroll, those schools. So